Hey friends, happy Sunday and happy Easter, and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. I've got a pretty short one this week. It's not too long. We had some favorites, some super easy recipes that I'm going to share with you. I just wanted to go ahead and wish all of those who celebrate a happy Easter. I hope you'll have a great day. Go to church if you go to church, spend time with your family. But if you like these kinds of videos, I hope that you will subscribe down below. Come back every week. I share these every Sunday to motivate you to cook more for your family and give you some new meal ideas. As always, any recipes that I mentioned will be linked in the description box. So let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Friday night we had a pepperoni pizza bubble up bake. So I started off with a pound of Italian sausage, and I'm just going to brown that up, and I seasoned it with a little bit of garlic powder and onion powder and just cooked that up until it was fully browned. While that was cooking in a bowl, I cut up some biscuits. I'm using 2 packages of the grand style biscuits. These are the Aldi brand, but I cut each biscuit into 8 pieces using my kitchen shears, and then to that I'm going to add some pizza sauce, and then once my Italian sausage is done, I'm going to add that to it as well. And then I just kind of tried to mix it around as best as I could. It wasn't working great, so I kind of gave up on it and then transferred it to my 9x13-inch pan that I greased, and I just kind of continued to mix it around as best as I could and spread it out so that it covered the entire pan. And then I topped this with some mozzarella cheese and some pepperoni and a little bit of shredded Parmesan on top as well. And then I baked this in the oven on 375 for 30 minutes. To go with this, we just did salad for those of us that like salad, and then just some fresh veggies for Lily. The first time I ever had a pizza bubble up bake like this was in Wisconsin with my family. We had gone up there back in 2016, and they made one for us for dinner one night, and I was like, this is delicious. And then I've tried other variations of it. You could do different toppings. You could do Alfredo sauce. Either way, it's delicious, and if you haven't tried one before, you definitely should. So Saturday ended up being a eat whatever you want kind of night. The kids had their belt testing on Saturday. They are now purple belts in Tangsudo. And after that, we took them out to lunch. We went to Chili's and celebrated and had a late lunch. I think we ended up eating lunch at 3:30 or something. So none of us were super hungry at our regular dinner time, and I didn't feel like cooking. So the kids had leftovers of the pizza bubble up bake, and then later after they had gone to bed, when Andy and I were hungry, he ate some mac and cheese and I ate some SpaghettiOs and cheese toast. Sunday night, I made tuna patties. This is what I was supposed to make Saturday, and the kids really, really wanted it, so I made it on Sunday. And for this, I don't really measure it too much, especially the seasonings. It's just kind of based on how you want it. So I've got 5 cans of tuna here that I've drained, and I'm adding to a bowl. And then I'm going to add in 2 eggs, a bunch of Old Bay seasoning, and this is something I do not measure at all. It's gonna be up to your taste buds on how much you want. I do a dash of Worcestershire sauce, and then about 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour, and that's it. That's the same recipe that Andy's grandmother gave me for her salmon patties, and one time I was just like, what if we made this with tuna instead, because tuna's cheaper? And it turned out delicious. So now most of the time I make tuna patties just because cans of tuna are cheaper than cans of salmon, and you can get canned salmon for cheap, but then you have to pick out all the bones and stuff, and I cannot do that. I've done that a couple times in my life, and I just cannot do that anymore. So then I heated up some oil, about a 1/4 of an inch, in the bottom of my cast iron skillet, and when it was hot, then I pattied out my tuna and just arranged them in the pan, and I let them cook for about 5 minutes per side. You only want to flip them once, and you want to get a nice golden crust on them. I have such a hard time flipping these and not splattering grease everywhere. If you have any tips for that, let me know, because this is one of the main reasons I don't fry foods, because I'm always making a mess everywhere and burning myself. So to go with this, we did some mac and cheese that I made in the Instant Pot, and I've shared that recipe many times, so it'll be linked down below. Some roasted broccoli in the air fryer, and then some of us also had some sliced tomato. Monday night we did Swedish meatballs in the crock pot, and if you saw the vlog that I put up on Friday, you have already seen this, and if you missed it, it will be linked down below as well. But I'm going to go ahead and run through the recipe again real quick. So in the crock pot, I added 1¼ cups of beef broth, or I did water and some beef bouillon powder. I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of half and half, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, or I use some of those frozen minced garlic cubes, and I use like 3 of them, which are apparently equal to 3 cloves. And then a teaspoon of Dijon mustard and a little bit of salt and pepper. And then it called for a 26-ounce bag of frozen meatballs, but I buy the giant bags of frozen meatballs from Sam's Club, so I just did enough to like have a layer and a little bit more of meatballs in my crock pot. And then you just put a lid on this and let it cook on low for 4 hours. And then after the 4 hours, all you have to do is give this a good stir, and then stir in about 1/2 cup of some sour cream. And then I put the lid back on this and let it sit while I cooked up some mashed potatoes, which I did in my Instant Pot, and I have shared that many times. To go with this, I just made a can of green beans, and then I had some lingonberry jam in the fridge, and that made it like the Swedish meatballs that you get at IKEA, and it was delicious. I was very happy with the Swedish meatball recipe in the crock pot. I wasn't sure how it was going to taste, but it was very good, and I'm always looking for a variety of crock pot meals. Tuesday night we did Crunchwraps, which is super simple. All I had to do was cook up a pound of ground beef with some taco seasoning and then start assembling our Crunchwraps. So you want to get the like large flour tortillas, or even the extra large if you can find them. Some tostada shells. We've got some lettuce, some pico, sour cream, nacho cheese, and some shredded cheese. So you're going to start off with your giant tortilla here, and then put on some meat and then some of the nacho cheese. And then I like to spread some sour cream on the top of the tostada because it's just easier to kind of like spread it on there while the tostada is in your hand versus trying to do it once you lay it on top of the nacho cheese. But you put that down, and then your lettuce, and then if you're also doing tomato, you would add tomato here, and then your shredded cheese. And then I'm using the large tortillas, so you do need a little piece of another tortilla to kind of close it up, because these large tortillas won't fully like wrap around the whole tostada. But if you get the extra large ones, if you're lucky enough to find those, then you don't even need like a piece of another tortilla ripped off. Then I just, fold it around it, seal it up. And then we're going to place this on a hot skillet with that seam side down first and let it cook for a few minutes so it can get nice and toasted. And then once it's toasted, the seal will like stay closed. And you just repeat that for however many Crunchwraps you need. Flip it over, let it get toasted on the other side. And that's it. One of my kids doesn't like tomatoes, one of them doesn't like lettuce, so that's why you saw me make one with no tomato and one with no lettuce. But for Andy and mine, we did everything on ours, and they were delicious. I always cut them in half for the kids because it makes it easier for them to eat, but I only cut mine in half to kind of show you the cross section. They're delicious. They're so easy to make at home, and they taste so good. I realized on this night that my kids have never had a Crunchwrap from Taco Bell. Elijah asked me while eating dinner, he said, "Is this really something you can get at Taco Bell?" And I was like, yes. And I realized he had never had one or even seen me eat one because we don't eat Taco Bell that much. But we make Taco Bell recipes at home pretty often. Wednesday night we had Philly cheesesteaks. I picked up this meat that I'm going to be using on markdown at Kroger and knew I wanted to make some Philly cheesesteaks. So I'm starting off with some butter and some olive oil in my cast iron skillet, and I'm going to get that nice and melted and hot, and then I'm going to add in 1 green pepper that I sliced and half of an onion that I sliced, and then I'm going to season those with a little bit of salt and pepper and just cook them until they're nice and like browned and soft and tender to my liking. Once my onions and peppers were done, I just removed them from the pan and set them aside for later. And then to my pan, I'm adding 2 pounds of this thinly sliced steak. It said it was like ribeye steak. And I'm seasoning that with some Cavenders and some salt and pepper. I was out of the Montreal steak seasoning. That's what I would have liked to use, but I was out of it. So I just used the Cavenders. It's just a blend of all the different seasonings, garlic powder, onion powder, all the things. So then I just cooked this over a medium-high heat. It cooked pretty fast, and I was just in there breaking it up into little pieces while it cooked. And then once it was all done, I added in a little bit of Worcestershire sauce and a couple pats of butter and just like let that melt and let the meat kind of simmer in that. The butter adds so much flavor, and so does the Worcestershire sauce. So once all that butter had melted, I gave it one good final mix, and then I'm going to remove most of the meat from the pan. I'm going to leave enough just for one sandwich, and then I'm going to top that with a cheese. And you could do peppers and onions if you want, but this one that I was originally making is for the kids, and so they didn't want any peppers and onions. So I just did some white American cheese and then put a lid on this and left it over like a low heat to get that cheese nice and melty, and then you can transfer it to a sub roll. And I just put a little bit of mayonnaise on those sub rolls. You could also toast them, but I was not feeling like toasting them this night, so I didn't do that. Just put a little bit of mayonnaise on there and then put the meat and cheese, and these turned out so good. To go with them, we had some tater tots, ketchup, super good, super easy. Me and Andy are the only ones who like the peppers and onions, and they were perfect, nice and tender. And yeah, I will definitely buy this steak meat again. It was from Kroger, and I cannot remember what the package looked like though, but it's sold like to make Philly cheesesteaks with. It's already thinly sliced. It's in like one of those black like vacuum sealed packages. Yeah, and it was frozen. It was frozen when I bought it. It comes frozen. I don't think it comes thawed out. And finally, the last meal of the week, on Thursday, we just had spaghetti. Super simple, ground beef, marinara sauce, spaghetti noodles, and some garlic cheese toast from Aldi in the freezer section. And that was it. And that is going to be it for this week of meals. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I hope you'll have a great weekend and a great Easter. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.